Scientists predict two regions where a nuclear conflict is bound to occur. These are the Jews and Arabs. There, 50 million people are expected to die as a result of nuclear weapon use. And India and Pakistan. Again, due to religious differences. Muslim, Pakistan, and Hindu India. Although there are more Muslims in India itself than in Pakistan, but there they live without particularly standing out. There, 200 people died. And the third place where nuclear weapons will be used is the Far East. When someone attacks, South Korea will attack. No. Taiwan is in conflict with China. Japan with South Korea over the islands. And they're in the Far East. The third, nuclear conflict.
And let's look at today. Yes, what do we see? So we see a war between Israel and the Arab world. Well, in general, let's call them Arabs.
You mentioned that first conflict there. Let's comment on it. What do you specifically think about it?
Yes, I don't think anything about it. It's ongoing.
All right. Any further developments? It's ongoing. What will happen?
Let's first look at its main points. So the conflict is ongoing. The conflict is ongoing. It already exists. And Pakistan, India, not yet, but actually at the border. There is constantly something unclear happening there, meaning it tries to ignite but hasn't ignited yet. North Korea with South Korea is also trying to ignite but hasn't ignited yet. China and Taiwan are trying, but it hasn't ignited yet. Zhirinovsky, he undoubtedly had intuition, a certain connection with the spirit, but still he was more of a politician. He predicted some military conflicts up to the date.
Yes.
The date, about the date. I suppose that was, of course, more of his intuitive approach. Look, he predicted long in advance that very number. Well, I mean, he had some things that he predicted, especially far in advance. He was strong in the egregore of politics. And moreover, his intuition was developed. These two components, when combined, the egregore of politics provided him with certain information. This works absolutely with everyone, right? That is, yes, whoever reads something there.
So it wasn't like it was planned long ago. He just knew about it and, maybe he let it slip.
Things of this nature are planned up to the date, well, a couple of months in advance. At most, yes. If he had some numbers, I just don't remember. He had a series of numbers for a series of events, and I don't remember how far in advance he predicted them. If he predicted it, say, 6 months, a year, or 2 years in advance, well, of course, no one. A year or two in advance up to an exact number is not planned, because it would just go beyond the circles of such a narrow, so to speak, circle of people who are supposed to know about it. And in general, this number would already need to be postponed. Therefore, stories of this kind are planned, well, maybe not the day before, of course, but within a relatively short time. And what will happen next? Well, again, the Arab-Israeli conflict, it will definitely continue. It won't just go away. It will sometimes die down a little, then flare up again, then die down again, then flare up again, just for sure. Next, Pakistan and India. These stories, they look too different and change very quickly. Because of this, in fact, right up to the date, to the number, pay attention how many psychics we have, right? Well, no one can predict to the exact date. And why is that? Yes, because it is always fluctuating. It is always going up, down, right, left, and a certain general vector. Everyone talks about it, and everyone hits the general vector absolutely. Here we can draw two conclusions. Well, either psychics do not exist, which is not true, because any person who engages in any psychic practices will eventually achieve good results. Or it is explained by the fact that the branch of reality is constantly changing, constantly. And for example, the future conditionally at the beginning of the same SVO. It was one specific way for the near future.
There was a video mentioned about nuclear conflicts. So, regarding this topic, will there be a nuclear conflict somewhere specifically, a local one or not?
There will not be a full global nuclear war. We have talked about this many times because those very architects will not allow this war to happen. And a local nuclear threat, such as a small local nuclear threat, it can occur. And it will occur. But just in a limited, so to speak, scale.
I know that you communicate with members of secret societies, and do you have any You mentioned something like that. Do you have information about whether there are, prophets in governments who help to shape certain events, for example?
In every state, there are people who engage in extrasensory perception. In any case, but simply, again, extrasensory perception does not exist, except in these, as they say, in certain scientific circles, in certain scientific institutes, but in the rest of the world, it does. Whether among the people in politics, or in the environment of those some close associates to the government of various countries, that is, everyone has them. Everyone has a team of psychics. Absolutely. Because you can't dismiss it. It's a very powerful force. I've talked about this many times. Moreover, representatives of those very certain forces have told me about it themselves. Somewhere, again, in past interviews, you can find this story. But it's true. That is, everyone is working research. There are research laboratories that work on this topic. They work. There are many things, in fact, many different interesting things. So, don't think that the United States or Russia or anyone else doesn't have psychics directly in their service. They exist, they work. But this is also interesting. If these are public psychics, those who are directly actively filming for the public on YouTube, Instagram, Telegram, or somewhere else, then it's still not quite. Most likely they are working on some secret stories, because if you go to work on secret stories, you sign a certain paper stating that you will never, ever, anywhere, all of that.
So this is actively used?
Yes, of course. Of course. When you talk about prophets, about some, I don't know, people, yes, who help, whether they exist, they don't just exist, they are everywhere. The problem is simply, again, how competent they are, how much they can foresee. That's the first thing. And most importantly, how much politicians will listen. Because it doesn't happen. I mean, well, in some countries, yes, it can happen that a psychic comes to you and tells you something. But in fact, these are all separate institutions that deal with this, yes. They prepare an analytical summary based on this. All of this, that is, as they say at the very top, they just receive an analytical summary, a certain forecast. They read this forecast, which was possibly obtained by by some psychics. Then they read the forecast obtained by political scientists and the forecast obtained by sociologists. Based on this overall picture, they also rely on some of their own interests. They make decisions on whether to take risks or not, to go somewhere or not. But almost never does one strong psychic have a very strong influence on a politician. Most often, with some exceptions, it's teams. Teams that simply provide analytics in the end, and which is one of many analytical papers that are relied upon, as they say, by those in power.
Maybe you can see which political figures have contact with their higher self? Is it noticeable at first glance or not?
Yes, it is noticeable. It is noticeable in terms of, well, again, look, who? In fact, the higher the age of the spirit, the stronger the contact with the spirit usually is.
Well, we talked about Putin, yes, that he has
quite a significant age of the spirit. That's true. Lukashenko has quite a significant age of the spirit. Actually, I would say that both of them disproportionately large. That is, in politics, it's usually less than theirs, than these two guys, and also among a number of other figures. I just, don't want to delve into names and such, because I actually didn't want to mention these two names either. But since I already said something somewhere, as they say, I blurted it out. As they say among the people, let it be, let it stay. I'll say this, look, in the Western world, after all, most often politicians are teenagers. They are teenage souls who come to realize their own purely adolescent experience. That's it. I have no right to say anything more on this topic.
Dear friends, I invite you all to my course with a personal vision, Return to the True Self. This course has been around for over 12 years. And recently we launched it in English with my complete personal vision in 6 modules, working with blocks, working with egregores, working with the ego, contacting the higher self. answers to simple questions, answers to more complex questions. And then there's what we call the Great Journey. It's contact with space, contact with the planet, contact with God, contact with anything at your request through the higher self. Health, finances, relationships, purpose, past life. The course is available at any time. You can sign up for it using the link below this video. Come on over. I'll be waiting for you.